There was weeks where I would go 100,000 meter weeks. I'd be in the pool for 2.5 hours, just going up and down, literally nonstop for 2.5 hours.
This is all I've ever known. Is that even
possible for me?
I don't want to miss anything.
I don't need that.
I don't want to acknowledge my pain.
I don't want to get poked with needles.
I don't want that.
There's nothing wrong.
I'm fine.
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 Now, when you describe just how much work and training went into it to get to that point, like, that is a lot. And even when you were having issues with your haemophilia, you don't talk about like taking a day off. You talk about what you could do alternatively to make sure that you're keeping up with the training. Are there any sort of particular moments that like stand out to you, whether like haemophilia related or not, where you just sort of think, wow, like I was really pushing myself to the limit and having to just kind of put the physical and mental strain to a side to just push through? Are there any sort of moments that really stand out to you that, you know, people perhaps don't really recognize goes into it?
There was one particular moment 2 days before. So this is probably the 5th or 6th of September, obviously the week of the game. So the games had started on the 28th of August or whatever it was. On the 5th of September, I had a massive hemarthrosis in my left knee, like huge. I had a massive, massive bleed 2 days before my main event. So that could have jeopardized that kind of 300-day period of working towards this day, having this day kind of highlighted in my calendar. So I had the massive bleed, kind of did all my treatment as usual. The bleed wasn't going away. So I was rushed to kind of a private hospital in the Olympic Village, and my knee was aspirated. For those that don't know what that is, it's basically they stick a needle into your joint and drain all the blood, which isn't, standard practice. And I would just kind of put my faith in the doctors that were around me in my support network to make sure that I would have the best opportunity of being ready for the 8th. So by the time I came around to the 8th, I had already done kind of a full day of training. I was back in feeling great. And luckily enough, it didn't kind of hinder anything in my performance. And I was able to still go out and smash it. But it was you had to reset your mental aspect and kind of your preparation to not panic, because that's when there's like a drop off in performance. So for that to take place and for me just to go through the whole process of, having to being rushed in, being aspirated and trying to recover in that period of time, and then get ready for the emotion that I was going to feel in front of a crowd of 17,500 people chanting my name. As an 18-year-old, it's a lot to handle. But I think, again, it comes back to that support network, and I kind of lent quite heavily on my coaches. My family had no idea, because that would have not that they wouldn't have been caring and loving it, but it would have just stressed me out. So it's just recognizing what was good for me at that point in time, what wasn't good for me, and just making sure that, I was able to perform at the top level.
Wow. That is, during the games, I didn't know about that one.
No one, it's not a story I've ever told. Not many people know.
Well, exclusive here. I'm blown away, man, to have that happen so soon before you were due to be competing on that stage. I mean, that is crazy. I mean, I've heard the stories of you talking about the training where you're sat on the edge of the pool and you're throwing up and all of that horrible stuff. But I mean, that probably pales in contrast to having to have your knee aspirated, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there was, and don't get me wrong, there was days like that where there was weeks where I would go, doing like 10,000 meters a week, 100,000 meter weeks. I'd be in the pool for 2.5 hours, just going up and down, literally nonstop for 2.5 hours. There'd be times where we'd be doing, fast sprinting and then doing like, just trying to produce as much, lactic acid as much, and you'd just be in a world of doom. But that kind of already kind of set you up for whatever you were feeling in the race. You just knew you could handle, and that's what that kind of 300-day period was for. But then to kind of circle back and come back to that week beforehand, that was the biggest challenge I think I'd had mentally, physically, and we, kind of relating it back to my haemophilia. It was just a pretty awful, like I'd say like 6-hour period, but I just put my faith in the people that were around me that were there to look after me, and they did a really good job.
I mean, that is another level of pushing through and kind of having to adopt that I'm fine mentality. And I think you touched on an important thing there when you mentioned not wanting to tell your family to obviously you don't want to worry them and you know that they'd be supportive, but sometimes when it comes to having, you know, a condition like hemophilia, you have people that care about you so much that actually when you tell them everything, it can kind of backfire and cause you more stress in a weird way. And it seems selfish, but I think it's such an important thing to recognize that ultimately you've got your support network, but the condition lands with you. And sometimes you just need to kind of own it yourself and work through things. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that as well. We always hear about, you know, seek support from those around you and, you know, share. But now and again, I think it's okay to kind of like take a beat, reflect on yourself, and then see who within that circle is the most appropriate to speak to.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think I don't want to speak for anyone else that has the condition, but I've certainly found that with the condition, I had to mature at quite an early age and had to be aware of what was going on with my body at quite an early age. So that kind of left me in good stead. And it's still the same now. You know, if there's no need to worry anybody, there's no need to worry about it. And you can just kind of, I ring up my physio or ring up my doctor and have a chat with them and see what their advice would be for if I was going through a certain issue. Touch wood, my condition's kind of really well managed currently. And I don't really have that many issues. It's just, you know, but if I were to have issues, I have that faith and trust in my support network that they're able to help me out in any kind of sticky situation. But it comes back to just being self-aware and having to be self-aware at such a young age, because you have to do a lot of growing up quite quickly when you have a blood condition like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's so important for people to recognize, you know, that it is a big ask. There's things that you have to adapt and get used to from a young age with hemophilia. But I think for people listening in to hear that from someone like yourself is super important. And that sort of leads me on to what I wanted to touch upon next, in terms of like your position in the community over the years. So you've always sort of been front and center. And, you know, as someone who's done a fair bit of advocacy myself, I am acutely aware of how draining that can be at times, and sometimes forgetting to maybe check in on how you're doing yourself. During all of that and over the sort of past decade or so, did there ever come a point where you felt like you needed to step back a bit and focus more on yourself? And you know, how did you sort of get to that point if that was the case?
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose the period after the games were quite difficult. So the year after the games, I was, you know, still being, it was really successful, broke a couple more British records along the way. But then kind of 4 weeks before World Championships, had another massive hemophilia. And this time it wasn't as simple as getting it aspirated. I had to be in hospital for a week to get that sorted. That kind of ruined my prep for the World Championships. I then was going through my A-levels, was in various kind of personal relationships at the time. I then moved up to Newcastle, managed to qualify for the European team, came away with a silver medal, but had chickenpox 5 days before the championship started. And I wasn't swimming as fast as I was in 2013. So constantly felt like I was chasing my tail, as well as going through a massive personal shift in terms of moving my whole life from Preston in the northwest of England up to the northeast of Newcastle, where I trained and lived and studied for my university degree. I then had some surgery in 2015 on my ankle, which was kind of giving me a lot of stress at the time. So took a year out in 2015, missed the major championships, which were in Glasgow. And then all of a sudden we were back into kind of paralympic here in 2016 and kind of trained myself into the ground. My mental health was on the floor. And then I ended up missing the team by less than half a second. So to go through all that and then miss the team by less than half a second kind of took a massive toll on my mental health. And I just decided to step away from swimming for a period of time. And again, at that period of time, I was going through a hell of a lot in terms of pain management with my bad joints on my left knee and my right ankles specifically. I was going through a hell of a lot with those. And I just decided I needed to take an extended break from swimming. So missed the Rio Games and kind of didn't get back into the swimming pool until mid of 2018, once I'd kind of figured out what I wanted to do. And I was going into my last year of uni, and I just wanted to kind of feel that elation of standing up in front of, a crowd and an international competition. And unfortunately, during that period of time, that my osteoarthritis in my left knee had developed so much that I couldn't do breaststroke anymore. So although I couldn't do breaststroke, I still entered this international competition in 2018. And sorry, just to rewind, I'd been invited to go and speak. I joined a program called Inspired Through Sport, which aimed to inspire children and school kids, as well as some businesses, into athletes who had been to previous Olympic and Paralympic Games to go and talk about their kind of lived journey, which was great. It gave me a little bit of pocket money to spend whilst I was at university, but also gave me a really good education in public speaking and kind of putting on full day events for school kids. And I started that before I decided to get back into the swimming pool. And my story kind of had it kind of like a normal arc, and it finished on a low because it almost felt like I'd been beaten by, my mental health or my body. And I did a couple of them, and I remember, going home for a Christmas, or I think it was an Easter, and just speaking to my parents and saying, my story just isn't finished. I can't very well talk to these kids and say, look, I had all these amazing things, but then I was beaten by my own mental health or my own body. I need to do something to try and finish that story, to help them see that I went through such a massive low, and that I came out the other side. So then decided to kind of jump back in the swimming pool. My coach that had taken me to London had moved up to Newcastle, so I was in safe hands. She was looking after me, and I kind of entered my first international competition in December of 2018, my last year of uni, and I just gave everything to it. Albeit I wasn't training anywhere near as much as I was before London, but I was still in the water pretty much every day of the kind of working week. And I came away with a silver medal in the 50 meters freestyle, which, I didn't set the world on fire. It wasn't the greatest time I'd ever done. But to come away with a silver medal after going through all that stress from the last kind of 2 years post the Rio qualification period, I felt that was a really nice end to that arc and a really nice place where I could just kind of park my swimming career. And then it allowed me the time to focus in on the rest of my university journey, 6 months. And again, at that second year of uni, so 2017, 2018 academic year, I really, really struggled. So I spent that summer not only kind of training for this competition, but working on my educational skills. I think I was averaging like a third. I was getting 55% or something like that. So I really needed to pull the bag out in my last year to kind of get myself up to where I needed to be. And I came away with like 75% first class honours degree, and allowed me and gave me the platform alongside my swimming career to, have a great trajectory into what I wanted to do in the sport industry. So, there's definitely an arc there. And again, it's kind of lessons I've picked up along the way as I've gone through my sporting journey, my university career, now into my professional life, where I'm still using those lessons of high performance sport, picking up bits and bobs and skills along the way. And I'm still developing now. I'm, 2 years into my journey here at Formula One, and I'm still learning as if it was a school day. And I lean back on that support network who allowed me and gave me the tools and the opportunities to be where I am today. And I'm very grateful and very humble for that.